Today I'm showing you all the weapons in the game at max value or at minimum level 8 value. Also going to be going over which weapons are the best to use beginning, mid, and late game, and going over some of the advantages of them. First we have the Astral Smasher, which you can acquire. I think it's a guaranteed drop off the second mech at 3 playthroughs reaching that point. All 3 playthroughs I got it as a I got it as a drop on that mech. So I'm pretty sure it's a guaranteed drop. It is a auto rocket launcher that has a slow start, but it's great to clear out groups of enemies once it gets going. Shielded dudes. It has a good stun lock once it gets going. Like, the enemies are not moving after a couple seconds holding down the trigger. Next up we have the MG1000 Strikebreaker, which I know a lot of you are going for. Now, this weapon can be obtained early if you can find one of the big dudes holding the minigun. What you want to do is just kill that dude, acquire whatever items he drops, and then just die. And you should get that dude again when he respawns. If you didn't get the minigun off that one, you'll have another chance to get the minigun early. Otherwise, you can buy it shortly after unlocking Stimtown in one of the shops. Very powerful gun, really powerful with lock on fire. You can clear out entire groups of enemies or couple big dudes with it real quick. Next up we have the P9000 Room Sweeper, which you acquire somewhere around mid game. It is the best submachine gun. Its rate of fire is ridiculous with a 60 round clip. Basically anything that you're shooting with it is not going to be able to attack you because you're dealing so much stun lock, so much stun damage so fast that it can't move. So it is a really nice weapon, great to just strap and clear out a lot of dudes with this quick. Next up we have the God Gun of the game. You acquire this very late. You don't really even have access to it to the last mission, I believe. I'm not sure if you can get there early in co-op if you have somebody with the high level cyber deck or not. But this is a minigun that fires shotguns. Basically can annihilate enemies so fast with lock on fire. You just shred dudes. As long as it keeps hitting, it just keeps killing. Definitely one of the guns to max out to 10. I'll get to that in a moment, a little bit more on that. Next up we have the Abr Commander. Now, burst rifles and precision rifles can be very powerful. They do hit insanely hard. Personally, I don't like hitting the trigger as much as I have to in this game to use a burst rifle precision. If it was like 25% more powerful, I'd go for them. But if you like burst rifles and precision rifles, this is the best ballistic burst rifle. Next up we have the B7 Disintegrator, which is really fun to play with. Well, I really like it. It's got a 100 round clip, which kind of equates to roughly 10 seconds of firing. Now I'm pulling that 10 seconds out my ass, but it does fire for a decent amount of time, and you get like an energy beam that you fire. So I mean, I really like it. It's pretty cool to use, and it puts out good damage. Next up we have 2 rocket launchers, the Besieger and the Blastmaster. You get them roughly around the same point. The Besieger slightly earlier than the Blastmaster, but the Blastmaster has a larger rocket and slightly larger blast radius. You can actually fire the rockets on the Blastmaster only 10% slower than the Besieger. I actually timed this, and due to the time that you fire the time in between you can fire 2 rockets on the Besieger, and the amount of time it takes to fire a rocket on the Blastmaster, reload and fire it again, you basically fire about 10% slower on the Blastmaster. But the Blastmaster has a larger rocket, so it's much easier to hit your targets. Personally, I like the Blastmaster better, but the Besieger is basically as good. Dismember is a special unique weapon. I forget where you get this, but it fires discs. It does pretty good damage, but it's more fun to use than a top tier weapon. It's not bad, but it is fun to play with. Dread is a very good early game weapon. You'll probably be using this up until your point of getting the Dominator, or if you're using the shotgun. But the Dread's a really good early weapon to use. Still wouldn't upgrade it because you're going to get a better weapon soon. Just maybe put 1 upgrade or 2 upgrades into it if you got to. You're struggling a little bit. E77 is a late game energy assault rifle. It's not bad. I would have liked if it was a little bit more powerful, but it's playable. Same thing with the EBR Enforcer. It does put out a lot of damage for a burst rifle. I mean, it's basically as good as the Commander. I don't know. The ballistic ones seem to be more effective overall against enemies, but the EBR Enforcer is also really good. It is a late game weapon. If you're a fan of the burst rifles, it is the best energy burst rifle. I'm going to completely skip over pistols. I mean, this I think is a starting pistol, but I never used pistols in the game once I got the submachine gun, so I didn't even test those out. This is the starting machine gun. It also is a potential to use with the Dread. You're either going to want to use the Dread and the PPW, the Dread and the first shotgun, the Striker I think it is, the Riot Gun. You'll either want to use the Dread and the RPG-23 launcher, the Riot Gun and the launcher, or the Dread and the submachine gun, which I think I already mentioned. So, just moving on, we got another 2-3 pistols. This one is, I think, a reward from one of the early side missions. Just gonna completely skip over that. I just did not test the pistols. The Dominator is a really gun to use once you get it. It has a 100-round clip. It does pretty good damage. Definitely the gun to be using before the minigun. Magnamaker is a flamethrower. It's kind of fun to use. It kills humanoids fairly quickly if you upgrade it, but it does shit damage against the robots, and it has short range, so it's more fun to use than one of the better weapons. Overwhelmer is just crap for a machine gun. It definitely is the worst machine gun out of all of them. You'd think it'd be good with the explosive, but no. 20-round clip, and it just doesn't have enough damage to be useful. Let's skip over the pistol. RPG-23 is a rocket launcher that you could get early, and if you do happen to get this early, it does hit really hard on early enemies, so if you get this, this is actually a really good secondary to have to kill the big dudes. Strobus is a late game energy minigun, but the Strikebreaker overall is better. I believe you can actually buy them both in the same shop once you reach that shop shortly after reaching Stimtown, or even in Stimtown it might be. But the Strikebreaker is just a better minigun. You can use it just to shoot the energy, but if you want to do more damage, then use the Strikebreaker. Crazy Maker is an interesting submachine gun, but the Room Sweeper is better, and you get the Room Sweeper slightly after. So I wouldn't put any upgrades into the Crazy Maker. It fires bullets that ricochet, but you don't do too much damage off the ricochet, and the Room Sweeper just has a lot of stun damage and a much larger clip, 2.25 roughly times clip, something like that. It's just much better. Minor note, I just didn't test. Bore Shot is, I believe, the best. Bore Shot's the mid-game precision rifle. I didn't really use this in the Chrome Puncher too much, but I did use them a little bit. They seem to hit roughly on point for their DPS numbers, slightly more powerful than the mid-game assault rifles. But, you know, their rate of fire is significantly lower. So these are for people that are a fan of the precision rifles and really want to use them. Personally, I think the automatics are much better in the game. The ES4 Eraser is definitely the shotgun. If you want a shotgun in your max upgrades, the ES4 does immense damage. It's actually more powerful than the Fist. They say the Fist costs more. Like a couple of these weapons, they'll cost more than the lower cost weapons, but the lower cost weapons are better, and this is one. The ES4 Eraser is the best shotgun in the game. Obviously, the Riot Gun is just your beginning game shotgun, and I actually would recommend using it over the Scorcher. Even though it has half the clip, it has a faster reload, and it does more damage against robots. The Scorcher does shit damage against robots. You gotta fire basically 2-to-1 on the Scorcher versus the Riot Gun, even to kill the humanoids. So the Riot Gun, just overall, in my opinion, is better. The Fist is definitely better than the Riot Gun, but once you get the Eraser is the best shotgun in the game. So on to the 4 that I would pick for my superior tokens. You only get enough superior upgrades in your world to upgrade 4 weapons to max. Now I'm not sure yet if you can collect more superior tokens in co-op, because all of the games I joined, nobody was really at that point of collecting them. But I would still do the deal breaker. The deal breaker is the God minigun. I would still do the P9000 room sweeper because I really like the room sweeper. I would not do the strike breaker because the deal breaker is much better. The ES4 eraser would be one of the ones I would pick. And then on my 4th one, I probably would take the Disintegrator because I really like the energy cannon. The Astral Smasher is not a bad 4th as well. If you like the burster precision rifles, then going for one of those as well. If you don't want to carry the Astral Smasher, but you do want a rocket launcher, then I would pick my 4th as, what is that one I was talking about earlier, the Blastmaster. That would be my one if I wasn't taking the Astral Smasher, but I wanted a rocket launcher. And that is all the weapons. What are best beginning, mid, end game? Obviously, the ones that I'm selecting to upgrade to level 10 are the best ones for end game. The Abr Commander and the Disintegrator are obviously going to be better than the mid game ones, and I went over the best ones to use early on. So I'm going to leave the video at that. That is all the weapons in the game. Basically the advantages of some of them and what are best to actually spend your upgrade tokens on. I'm not going to really show any gameplay of any of them because I don't want to keep the video, I don't want to have the video too long, but I think from this you can take away what you want to test out, and that's what I do recommend doing. If you see a weapon that you think you'd want to potentially upgrade to 10, definitely test it out first. And don't spend any superior tokens until you've actually decided, like, that's the one. Go acquire the similar gun, go acquire the energy and the ballistic one, test them both out, and then decide what you want to upgrade. This is going to be a little bit of personal preference. And that is all the weapons in the game and some details about them.